Namo Manjo Shri, Namo So Shri, Namo Shri So, Namo Manjo Shri, Namo So Shri, Namo Shri So, Namo Manjo Shri, Namo So Shri, Namo Shri So. Please adjust your sitting posture according to the 7 meditative postures of Vairocana. Think, all sentient beings have been my mothers. All sentient beings have been my mothers not just once, but for numberless times. All sentient beings are as kind as my mother in this life. Even though all kind mother sentient beings want happiness and do not want even a small suffering, due to mistakenly engaging with objects of adoptions and abandonment, they do not experience any happiness but suffering. In our minds, sincerely generate loving kindness towards all kind mother sentient beings by thinking, how nice it would be if all kind mother sentient beings were to have excellent happiness and its causes that are virtues. May they have excellent happiness and its causes, or cause them to have excellent happiness and its causes. Lama deity, please bless me to be able to do so. Next, we generate compassion towards all suffering mother sentient beings by thinking, in brief, how nice it would be if all mother sentient beings were free from all suffering and the causes of suffering that are non-virtues. May they be free from all suffering and its causes. I'll cause them to be free from all suffering and its causes. Lama deity, please bless me to be able to do so.
What does it mean?
Next, we meditate. Next, we generate bodhicitta. First, we ask ourselves, who should take the responsibility to free all other sentient beings from the sufferings of samsara and lower realms? I should take the responsibility to free all other sentient beings from the sufferings of samsara and lower realms. Even though I should take the responsibility, but for now, I do not have the ability to place them in the state of perfect, complete enlightenment. Who has such abilities? Only those who have achieved the perfect state of perfect, complete enlightenment have the abilities to do so. Therefore, for the sake of all mother sentient beings, by all means, I will achieve the precious state of enlightenment.
이제 통일된 선지 공부도 시험 세분도 같은 그다음에니까 너희 이제는 뭔가 좀 최근에 모든 분만 세죠 지도 야단도 참 이제 그러니까 다리 좀 되게 너제 거기서 한번 좀 무슨 뭐지 아니면 없애지.
Next, we generate all-encompassing yoga mind. The aspiring conventional bodhicitta that thinks, for the sake of all mother sentient beings, I will achieve the state of enlightenment. These transform into the aspect of a complete mundis at one side. And the ultimate bodhicitta, which is one's mind becoming in one taste with the emptiness of inherent existence of all phenomena. These transform into the aspect of a white five-pronged vajra on top of the mundis.
이제 보면 있어서 나보니까 지금 뭐 지금 차가는 때문에 지금 그 차가는 지금 그 나처럼 나뭐 나 진실이 좋아하는 나 진실이 그 나보니까 지금 저
Next, we meditate on emptiness for a short while. The self and the aggregates do not exist as inherently one. If they were inherently one, they would necessarily become partless one. If they were partless one, there would be faults. It would be pointless to assert a self. Self would be many. Self would subject to productions and disintegration. It will be unreasonable to remember past lives. Karma one has done would go wasted. One would meet with karma that one has not done. Therefore, the self and the aggregates do not exist as inherently one.
차례가 되는 게 좀 기대서 되고
self and the aggregates also do not exist as inherently different. If they were inherently different, they would necessarily become unrelatedly other. Therefore, the self and the aggregates do not exist as inherently one or inherently different, and thus is empty of inherent existence.
예제에서 먼저 나기 싫어하는 게 고수 이제 이자와 관리 사회나 그래서 커지게 되면 생각을 계속 모습과 아마 원 이미 무엇을 나오시 아 이제 예사보다 제거된 게 성격적인 대화되는 되는 것도 이 치료는 스포츠야 그거를 주의하는 그래서 제가이나 어디에 가서 계좌에 다시 다시 yes.
As we always say, it's very important to conjoin the roots of virtue of our three doors with the practice of six perfections. Thus, to do so, the first one is generosity. The nature of generosity is an intentions of giving. These 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on the Dharma is for the arising of happiness and purifying the sufferings of all sentient beings. If I engage in this manner, then these roots of virtue will be conjoined with the practice of generosity.
어디에 생각을 특히 보이스 특히 무슨 마시니 다 간다 이제 일이에요. 예사부터 집에 가서 간다 이만큼 이제는 어디 맞죠. 책임도 보면 많이 간다 해서 이제 제가 있는 어디에 가서 계좌를 지르게 되는 것이
Next is morality. The nature of morality is a mind of abandonment. During these 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on the Dharma, through properly abandoning my physical and verbal misdeeds, I will not let them manifest.
어디에 세와 먼저 모두 있으면 세비 무엇만 하시 다 간다 예사부터 집에 가서 리더 센터 내가 가면 같이 주면 이게 방법이 세 투비만 그래서 제가 있는 어디에 가서 계좌를 쓰는 것이 있습니다.
Next is patience. The nature of patience is an undisturbed mind. During these 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on the Dharma, I will patiently accept any physical and mental hardships and suffering.
어디에서 모두 전부 대화가 또 있으면 전부 무엇만 다시 내사 고수 제가라 가와서 그런데 내사 고수 제가 전부 좀 많이나 어디에 가서 계좌를 쓰는 것이 있습니다.
Next is joyous effort. The nature of joyous effort is a mind enthusiastic for virtue. I will joyfully and enthusiastically engage in listening, contemplation, and meditation on the Dharma. If I engage in this manner, then these fruits of virtue will be conjoined with the practice of joyous effort.
어디에서 세 개인을 보다 지기는 상대는 무엇만 하시 하나서 내사 고수 집에 가서 세대 농도의 나요 간다 내사 고수 집에 지나 대 미리나 되는 파세 생각을 이 제기도 때문에 그래서 제가 있는 어디에 가서 계속 준비시키는 것이
Next is concentration. The nature of concentration is a single-pointed mind with respect to virtuous object. I will single-pointedly focus my mind on the virtuous object without being overpowered by distraction and coarse and subtle discursive thoughts.
제가 넘겨주려 버리 결혼이 무엇만 하시 간다 내사 고수 집에 치다 때 가면 시제 뭐가 봐야 뭐 이게 또 뭐지 정말이나 어디에 가서 계좌를 간다 결혼식을 했을 때
The last one is wisdom. The nature of wisdom is a knower that thoroughly distinguishes phenomena. I will properly and unmistakenly understand the words and meanings of the Dharma that I listen to, contemplate, and meditate on. If I engage in this manner, then these roots of virtue will be conjoined with the practice of wisdom. Set a good motivation. For the sake of all mother sentient beings, I will achieve the state of enlightenment. For these, I will listen to the teaching, holy teaching, and practice accordingly in order to benefit sentient beings. Voilà. What bebé? Oh. Mm. Ah. Yeah, so Kitula is having this sinus. So probably someone is burning some incense downstairs. So we are in chapter 4. So the related verse is verse 22. So under this verse is under the outline, which is the reason why exhaustion through merely experiencing suffering once in bad migration will not free one from bad migration. I repeat, the reason why exhaustion through merely experiencing suffering once in bad migration will not free one from bad migration. So in relation to this verse, in relation to this outline, so there is a qualm or question. So the question is, so having exhausted the results of committed actions of negativity, one will be reborn. In relation to these qualms, the verse says, through experiencing merely that, I shall not be liberated, because while experiencing that in such a way, other negativities will be strongly produced. So a person who has exhausted just one of them through experiencing merely the result of a previously committed action shall not be liberated from the bad migrations. So it is a response to the previous question. So the person think that it's not difficult to be liberated from the bad migrations. However, it is difficult to be liberated from the bad migrations because merely through experiencing the result of a previously committed action will not be liberated from the bad migration, because while experiencing the suffering that is the result of the previous action in such a manner, other negativities that will generate strong suffering will immediately and strongly be produced and accumulated. And one should strive to stop the causes of the bad migrations, because upon the support of a bad migration, so having the support in a bad migration, the virtue is weak. So virtue is weak means that it is difficult for one to accomplish virtue, and one will continually accumulate negativities like waterfall. So in brief, this verse says that while experiencing the results of previous negative actions, that is, while we're experiencing suffering, so we might think that through experiencing the suffering result, then the negative karma will be exhausted. Then I will be free from the bad migrations. So, however, it is not that simple. So, because while you're experiencing suffering in bad migrations, and whatever actions you do in bad migrations becomes an actions to accumulate negativities. And actions could be as simple as just taking one step itself is accumulating. Taking one step itself accumulates negativities. Even if you were to accumulate virtue on the basis of bad migration, then your virtue will be very weak. So so we must understand what are the causes for bad migrations, and then one should strive to stop all these causes of bad migrations. Next outline is having attained leisures and endowments. If I do not strive for virtue, it will become self-deception. I repeat, having attained leisures and endowments, if I do not strive for virtue, it will become self-deception. So under this outline is verse 23. If having found such leisure, I do not familiarize with virtue, there can be no deception other than this. There can be no confusion other than this.
잘못되고 마치 루트를 와 전부 제보고 해야지.
So leisures and endowments. So we have already obtained this special body basis with 8 leisures and 10 endowments. So on this basis, this special precious human above or special human special body special basis of a human body, then we should strive to accomplish virtue. We should strive to accomplish virtue and abandon negativities. So this is from the aspect of the accomplishment.
다른 예반은 가서 리디 누가라 오로와 개와 누가 디파포하는 예바 좀 제국을 해 스타일이 봐. 합좀 제국해야 돼. 세컨스는 가서 하여튼 더진 좀 빠진 리디가 좀 가고 저래서 또 아주 힘도 내가 님바이는 대체부 힘도 치 이게 너무 이게 너무서는 가서 다 배자체 고 이게 너무 잔줄래 봐. 잔줄래 봐. 이게 너무 와.
양규라.
자 약동을 합 미시 그와 뭐 들릴 바 합아 답변 하장의 자칭부 들리 내리 그래서 봐 이거 버젯 가진 좀 버젯 이게 체버지 버젯 우리 때 비슷도 봐 비슷도 봐 안다 이게 너블을 합아 되듯이 그게 야구 비슷도 봐 그게 터는데 이라면서 미디 란도라 전부 제고해 이게 되지 아무데 지와
그러니까 와다 그렇죠.
那个我带全部的话，那个我带全部，那个在新的，那个新的带全部，一直能不能他吧？我在等你咋全部一查的，你是对的，别说错。
So from the side of accomplishment, so we must strive to accomplish virtue and abandon negativities upon this basis. So the reason we need to strive to abandon and accomplish negativities and virtues on this basis is because these leisures and endowments, 8 leisures and 10 endowments, is difficult to find. This precious human rebirth with 8 leisures and 10 endowments is difficult to find. And when it's found, is great. It has great meaning. It has greatly meaningful. It's greatly meaningful. So, and it is so precious that the preciousness of this precious human rebirth is 100 times, 1,000 times more precious than the wish fulfilling jewel. So in general, when we talk about wish fulfilling jewel, it is very precious, right? So however, this precious human rebirth is 100 times, 1,000 times, or 100,000 times more precious than wish fulfilling jewel.
然后就电子全部属于你必须做把一个的时候了，你必须做把早全部的一个的是，对了看到你的样子了，也专把全部的是在一起不需要吧？这个呢是你必须做把个你比真的了，当你的上班的就要你给拖呢，是吧？上班的就要你给拖呢，看到我们都做理党是吧？做理党啊，爸爸就是你说了是吧？那你就跟上班的就要你给拖呢，他会给分明公布的，我统计清给公布出来了，是吧？爸爸统计清给公布出来了，看到对，这部分没在前五的是吧？你没在马街吧？马街吧，但联络问题。联络很难一个问题，是吧？这联络很难一个问题，这简单，最终就能够可能，这主要也没这的，谁把人呢？没这东巴的谁把人呢？啊，你还真的，你这咋情况的？但让你把啥情况？第二，是说越的，有些的他得查个是看的，让各个端呢，当他有些的我，那得查个是吧？那第二他是，那说我个端啊，都要给用嘛的是吧？是吧？
So we have obtained this excellent precious human rebirth, its special basis. So upon which we must strive to abandon negativities and accomplish virtue. So in both attitudes and behavior. So in both thoughts and applications, or in attitudes and behavior, both in this, so not just think about it. So in actions, we must strive to do so. So in order to attain a higher rebirth and liberation and the state of omniscience. So we must familiarize ourselves with those accomplishments and those abandonment, and also we should strive to do so. So if we do not make an effort in this way, then if we were to fall under the control of laziness, fall under the control of distractions, and then if our whole life is just about accomplishing small things in our lives, our whole lives is occupied with doing small things, then and if our precious human rebirth exhausted in this way, then this is self-deception. And this is the worst self-deception. So there's nothing worse than this self-deception.
我的你看到，当然是你的全部的，那是对象，那是什么谈了多点对吧？那就不现在把他的不搞给生当个嘛的，那是大家呢，给大家进就把现在电商嘛，他那这个是吧？大家拖点的，他这个拖点身上，他电商门的那个，我们团队，每地朗读，那这接巴了，趋势的哪样的，跟你别往很多吧呢，肯定碰不起来的吧，碰不起来的，我的身上。他讲到我说，那签的了，说的，他讲到啊，所以头来，做头来呢，那个结果的，做的那个结果的呢，做结果了，我靠，我们一般对那么，那说滴滴就拉到了，那这结果对结果不强，是吧？做结果我们一般，因为是你个那么多做个结果的话，我的你给结果的也是，不是说看到老呢，我不知道结果要把的了，把看到啊。在全部的有吧，已经当嘛，其实老板呢，那个呢，旁边的也是在地的话，真的。
So if we were to give an example of this precious human rebirth, so then all of us have already obtained this precious human rebirth. So you don't have to think think about this precious human rebirth is somewhere far from you. So we all have already obtained this precious human rebirth. So upon this good basis, so we must engage in adoptions and abandonment in relation to virtue and negativities. So if we were to waste this precious human rebirth, if we waste this in the manner of getting distracted all the times, then it is very pitiful. So, and we need to work to make a living, to earn a livelihood. So, however, our whole life is not just about earning a livelihood or making a living. So we must go together we must pair it with our Dharma practice. So we must be able to make it this way. So we must do in this way. So to pair our Dharma practice with jobs that earn us a living. So if we, so yeah, so while having this precious jewel, so these precious jewels refer to our precious human rebirth. While having this precious jewel, and if we do not utilize it, then it is such a waste and it is such a pity.
他地就那个对的，他签的等以后可不还晓得。那我是旅店上全部的了，那的话，旅店上全部的了，朗读嘛西北呢，你吃饭了的，年龄的等以后可不还晓得的，那就辛苦了吧。
彻底了。
签的了，看到了，签的了，等以后可不还晓得，真的是的话，那签的等以后可不是话的话是签的了呗，旅店上全部的那样的，那给的朗读了，嘛西吧，就完了，准备嘛西北呢。另起来两个的东西，我的也是话，两个这个东西，那当时嘛，这个我也是那个话，那么，对吧？
So next outline is, So next outline is if we do not strive for virtue. So another way of saying this is if we do not engage in adoptions and abandonment on this precious human body, then we need to experience suffering in these lives.
그래도 저번에 바데 다비 때도는 몸이 시저 지루나 또한지 디디체 명예 정도 요스 와 우리가 주로 지루와
So in relation to this outline is under this outline is verse 24. If having understood this, out of confusion, I'm indolent afterwards. When it is time to die, tremendous grief will rear its head.
아데다 디시오다 가지다 이 공도 지마 되는마 근데와만 주고 간다 뒤지는 거래 간다 다 단전이 가와 이그 비비기 나도라 셰부고네 비비기 나도도 많이 바이나 아상도랑 비바데 예 쇼지랑 그랑 비바데로 비바 세테니 레바 토니 하코니로 레바 토니자 이 토니야 다 거바이나 몸비기 좋아하더라 내가 농도를 나의 우리 몸이 좋아하게 되기 이것도 맞아 봐. 삼바 천주지 세다. 천주지 세다. 저봐 바로 치고 두. 와. 천주지 세다. 저봐 바로 치고 두. 명안에서 라바 마시 바이나. 와. 라바 말아 나페는 다 말아. 천주지 세다. 저봐 바로 치고 두대. 나마이나 말아봐. 나다다 때 상부 디지털이야. 안도 비즈니스 돈이 말아봐이나. 와. 말아봐. 내려오는 도바이나 내려오는 도바이나 내가 먼저 치 뒤서 그래서 좀만이 당연도로마 지워서 등이 세라메 버튼이시 우리 예스나 데려와 된다 치 뒤서와 등이 세라메 양이 하장 넣어서 넣는 거와 그래서 우리 취시다 마지막이나 한번 지가 걸고 그래서 좀 세라 동안 나타든지 다시 불려고 와
So to connect this verse to previous verse, so previous verse talks about we have found this practice human rebirth with 8 leisures and 10 endowments, and then we must strive to accomplish virtue, and then we must engage in adoptions and abandonment. So if we do not do so, then if we do not do so, then it becomes a self-deception, right? So while knowing this, while knowing that it will become a self-deception, then we must need to engage in adoptions and abandonment. While knowing this, and if we were to fall under the control of confusion and laziness, and do not train in generating bodhicitta, and do not train in the deeds, such as train the deeds of 6 perfections, then at the time of death, then we will experience unbearable suffering. So, in general saying, so if we do not practice dharma, so at the time of death, then we will face a lot of mentally, then we will face a lot of difficulties. Then we will experience mental suffering, such as the sufferings of fear.
다간다 지마 인디 그냥이 되는 거 같더라. 다간마가 되는데 비kalma. 다간다 예 대상문들 하나 양이 맞게 되는 이디가 그거 양이 맞게 되는 심마라. 얘도 등하지 또. 다른 얘도 막 미치게 되는 거 같아. 시베레 때에 자와마 가지고 냐면 시티 유린도 다비를 세트나 이제가 메시 멤버이 세비 주와 되면서 세. 그래서 우리가 좀 친구와
So next outline is, if we do not engage in adoptions and abandonment with respect to virtue and negativities upon these good basis, then one will be tormented by suffering of bad migration in future lives. So under this outline is verse 25. So I repeat the outline. So if we do not engage in adoptions and abandonment with respect to virtues and negativities upon this good basis, the one will be tormented by suffering of bad migration in future lives. Also, but then the logging for that. And the verse 25 is, if my body burns for a long time in the fires of hell, which are difficult to bear, inevitably my mind will be tormented by the blazing fires of unbearable remorse.
다시마 면소도 가나라 면소도 GP 동아 지가 들어와 GP 동아 들어와 그만 면소도 GP 동아 저 다들 된다 되는 거 와. 다 보도 시번 하시지 다 전주지 센터 가서 때 대상문들 앞에 간다 가서 와 미리 나온다 될 점만 마시 바이나 다 가서 때 소소 개와 템비 여 바이나 다 간다 만 연도 때 다 전주지 센터 동바 전주지 동바 전도 동바 이마 동바 그리고 동바 간비시 바이나 내 간다 와 동바 상황만 연도 소소게 문제네 바 미리 나온다 마치 바이나 소비 동바 템비 여 바, 개와 템비 여 바, 상황만 연도 와 만냥 봤을 때 기술 나오디 네바 디바 참아 증명이 좋아 스마냥도 그래서 냥지 네바 사게로와 네바 사 스마냥 네바 뭐 사오디 네바도 소리 네바 게 가르쳐가서는 대시 워도 냥와 맞지 우리에서 이거와 나왔지 마 맞을 때 담보 전주시 세다 남바 남바 나왔다 가서 특히 소주도 좀 많이 나다 전주도 좀 많이 나온다 네네지 동바 네네지 동바 저주도 동바 와 동바 간이나 가서 동바 줄 때나 당연히 자체 보면서 심말하게 스린 남바다 봐 이거 저기 때 년도다 내로리에 제와라 뭐지 태송매 받으러 내로 제야 태송매 받으러 그래서 동바 지역은 태송이 많았어 제야 와 내로 대상 뭐 지를 제야라 그래서 스티야 보지 송사디 내가 태송고 말했어 나가서 등디지 대상 뭐 등디지라 나서 그때 기디기랑도라 점바야 뭐 마시바 그래서 그때는 대화 챔버 다 장주시 동바 속에 상야 비치 비다고 연주 소라 다 전후 그래서 가이 지금 저도 동부산 가이 예바 뭐지사 다 예바 뭐 사오디 다 동바 참마냐 예바 참마야한테 예바 참마 야한테 비바 참마야한테 어디 가는 시원도 가는 것은 야와라 맞지는 거야 냐와라 지자리 냐와라 배 사등 누가티 zelame ba ma de ju rin bo nyong ge de ri be a chang li sha wa da mei se ba la so ma de ni wa na ko ba de ni nyong ga yin bo ro wa de ni dung ga nyong ga yin bo re so
Yeah. So upon this good basis, if we do not strive to accomplish virtue and abandon negativities, then it causes our virtue to degenerate. So even if you have some small virtues accumulated before, and it will cause our previously accumulated virtue to degenerate. For example, so if you do not strive to accumulate virtues and do not strive to abandon negativities, then those moralities such as the uh, Mahayana precepts and the refuge vow, Bodhisattva vow, lay vows, and even one day precept. So all these vows we will not be able to guard these vows or precepts properly. So and we pollute I say we create faults. We create faults that transgress these precepts, these vows, and etc. So because of this, it causes our virtue to, even though you may have some virtues accumulated in the past, a small one, even though, then it will cause those small little virtue accumulated before to degenerate, and it will increase. Then one will accumulate negativities. So because of these, at the time of death, so one will be reborn in hell, and in hell, then one will experience all sorts of unbearable suffering, such as being cut, being burned in the hell in the fire of hell, and etc. So not only that we are going to experience unbearable suffering, and we are going to experience it for a very long time. So talking about guarding morality, vows, precepts, and so forth. So if you are able to guard those precepts and vows properly, and if you are able to guard morality properly, and then there's undoubtedly one will be born in a happy realm or happy migration. So because of not engaging in adoptions and abandonment, then we cause our virtues to degenerate, and then we create faults of transgressions, transgressing those vows and precepts, then after death, then one will be reborn in hell and experience unbearable suffering for a very long time. That's I think that講得kariki，我對面差錢，So yeah. So after being reborn in hell, so one after being reborn in hell, yeah. So one can see those hell guardians. So those hell guardians are accomplished through one's own karma by the power of one's karma. So the hell being can see those hell guardians, and then the hell guardians will say to those hell beings, saying that, so once you have the precious human rebirth, but you do not accomplish virtue, you do not use it to accomplish virtue, and yet you accumulate only negativities. So the suffering that you are experiencing right now is created by you yourself. So even the hell being can see those hell guardians saying to them, so they can hear what the hell guardians saying, so that those sufferings that you are experiencing right now is created by you yourself. So, and then at that time, the one will generate very strong regret. So so now you understand this, that if I do not engage in adoptions and abandonment upon these basis, this will happen to me. So I should not waste this precious human rebirth. I should make an effort on this good basis in accomplishing virtue and stopping negativities. So it's not just thinking about it. It's not just having this thought or determination, and then you should implement this thought or this idea.
소소 배 다음 배 휴바 나시 배 소소 경험 단자들이 야 우리 소소는 배워 좀 쉬버려 얘네 와 근데 좀 마주 마이나 때문에 내가 봐봐 나시 자 쉬빌래 마이나 때문에 그래 냐와 제사 냐와 가서 나가 당신서 와대 배 내라고 주는 말 숲에 쉬부진 가와이나 때문에 간 내가 찾지 못 쉬버다 어디 선자 나한테 당분이네 예비 막이 받아 통화 마지와 통화 자동 마지와 이제 마지와 지금 받아 계속 못 쉬라래 해서 어디 쓰고 있는가
Yeah, so important. Whatever vows that you have taken before, so it's very important not to transgress any of these vows. So we should strive not to transgress the vows that we have taken before, whether it is a lay vows, whether it is a Mahayana precepts, or whether it is a Bodhisattva vows, or even a tantric vows. So those taking those vows has great benefits. So and while knowing that this while knowing that taking these vows has great benefits, then we must be very careful in relation to these vows. Means that you must careful not to transgress any of these vows, the vows that you have taken before. So this is a very important point. So nowadays, many people they like to receive initiation. They like to receive initiations or empowerment. So and it will bring great benefits if you were to guard those commitment and vows properly. So if not, if you were to transgress those commitments or those vows, and then one will create a big, create a heavy fault. So therefore, it's very important to accomplish virtue, to abandon negativities, and to guard morality on this basis.
다 간다. 나중에 가서 뒤지 소주 좀 내고로 뒤지 소주를 가서 수원이 마실 거리 이제 큰게 내오니 내놓는 것은 미식 때 동바다 망가와 송아지도 때 화장이 이 돈도 지나는 때 예전 아침 뭐 쉬지 싸울 수 있는데 와 내가 뒤도 지나는 가서 동바다 망가 때 싸움이야 뭐 송도 봐이 쉬지 쳐야 있는 거 와. 뒤지 소주 내고 다 나지 멍치야 상도 뭐 마셔지 받는 거로 예비 막에 봐시 송이 쉬고 누가 좀 쉬기 되고 사간다와 동방 가서 주지지 까맣게 진짜 이제 송바이 나때 동마지 송바이 나다 니가 좀 쉬고래
뒤지 소주.
뒤에 소리라고 딱 뒤에 소리인데 미세히 와서 와 이제 돈들이 가서 동방 송비가라 싸움 지서 까맣게 송바이 나 지고 까맣게 송나 싸움 송바이 나 니가 좀 쉬고 와 동바디가 망가 니가 막에 같이 송바이나 당가서 뒤에 소리 나머지나 딱이당 가서 니샤 몽치자 니샤 지는 거 주단들 가서 말을 해도 돼 산지만 마케지 봐라 나도 누구로 와 들려오니 이 버블 막때 니비 막이 봐 쉬비 나도 송거다 와 송거다 간다 그 뒤에 소와서 다 되게 쉬비 예절로 친구 쉬비 사는 있어요.
So in general, many people we take Mahayana precepts. So when you take Mahayana precepts, then you take Mahayana precepts until next day sunrise, right? So in this very short time, so comparatively very short in this short durations of time, so if you're able to guard these vows or these precepts properly without transgressing them, so the roots of virtue that one will accumulate is extensive, is immense. The benefits that one will benefits one will receive is great. So the benefits of taking the Mahayana precepts and guarding them, even for just 1 minute, the benefits and the roots of virtue that one will receive is incredible. So don't mention that you take it until next day sunrise. Sunrise next day.
다 얘기를 드린다. 그래서 산주 취세는 끝나야 냐와지 세면 받아 총망하시 기도와 기도와 다 들으면 싸워대 기도 내가 필리서 이게 또디 내주니 나니 시다 된게도 시야다와 예치나 뭐지 뭔가 시바시 달란데스 메드 세세 이러가 지다 선도와
Next outline is having wasted leisures and endowments, one is led to hell once again. It is the same as not having mind. So under this outline is verse 26 and the first two lines of verse 27. Having found by some coincidence this beneficial state that is so hard to find, if now, while having knowledge, I'm once again led into the house, then as though I were confused by mantra, this mind will be reduced to nothing. So these two verses, so it's under the outlines of having wasted leisures and endowments, one is led to hell once again. So it is the same as not having mind. So these two verses, so it talked about, and then it relates to the previous verse that we have talked about, that the precious emerald with leisures and endowments is difficult to find. Then when it's found, then one can accomplish great purpose. One can accomplish a great purposes. So these great purposes refers to the temporary and ultimate entire the all temporary and ultimate happiness of oneself and others. So this basis of your precious emerald is the basis or the foundation to accomplish all temporary and ultimate happiness for oneself and for others. So this precious emerald is as precious as as precious as the earth. So as the earth, meaning that so upon this on the ground, then on the field, then we grow crops, we grow trees, we grow fruits and crops, trees and so forth. So we need to rely on this ground or field to grow all these crops, fruits, trees, and etc. Right. So similar to these fields or this ground, then this precious emerald is the basis upon which we can accomplish all temporary and outer goodness for oneself and others.
So lepa tachi chine shi hindro so so ge shi bi hindo ro de nomje de de shiro ji shi hindo e dando ha go hindo e so so ge cha ye ba ya ro da ye ba de yo cha ye ba de yo do ro 야 예봐 얘를 파고 저 매봐 돼서 랭이 맞으러 랭이 맞아 어때서 만도사 만도사잖아 엄마는 저 엄마 mam부지라서도 그냥와라 뭐 제사리스와 야와라 mam부제사리 엄마랑 부제사와 나시 야라야 소소기 엄마 나시 야라야 나 대성 뭐 자침부터 연어야 라야야 냐와라서 뭐 등에 차기 뭐 요나에 mam부지에 인기 내가 참 내상 보내스 와 내상 보내스 뭐 리상으로 선자 자 여바데 누 여바데 맞아 네 방법에 맞아 저 여바다 저 매바다 뭐지지 이 지나단 말이야 아무 뜻이 없다 와
So based on extensive roots of virtue, those virtue and merits that we have accumulated in the past, we have attained this precious human above, this good basis now. So while having this good basis for this precious human above, and and we examine well what we examine well the karmic cause and effects, which is by accumulating negative virtue, the negative cause, non-virtuous cause, then one will experience the result of suffering, and by accumulating virtuous cause, one will experience the result of happiness. So having done the examination well, and while knowing this, while having this knowledge of a karmic cause and effect, then uh, we abandon what is worth doing. So what is worth doing is virtue, right? So is worthwhile. Doing accomplishing virtue is worthwhile. We abandon what is worthwhile, and we accumulate many what is not worthwhile. So those unworthy. So unworthy refers to those negative actions. So while having those knowledge, we engage in this way. We abandon what is worthwhile, and we accumulate many what is not unworthy, and what is not worthwhile, which is negative actions. So we born in hell in the past for many times already. And once again, upon this precious human rebirth, upon this good basis, we are doing the same thing again to accumulate causes for bad migrations, for health. So it is not okay to abandon what is worthwhile and to accumulate what is unworthy.
다 들어와 누가도 자 예바되고 야 매바네 예바되면 이 사바이나 내 간다 아 엄마 나와라 주고 넘바 나시 라야 된디 유린도 배 나와라 마타바 야 마타바 인디기 등에 뉴아치 냥나와 된디 지가 아니 나와라 이나스와 베시나 아텐지 말에 대페나 그러니까 시기때 리오지 몸바시네 매나도 뒤에 몸이 해봐 치려고라 리오지 몸바시네 매나도 지나스 아고
Ringagi.
나 몸바시네 나 몸바시다 나 좋아 이게 몸바시네 매나도 지나 단다 쓰는 몸바시 하고 봐 좋아 매나지 제대로 이나 좋아 예 나다 이나 시발 다다 소소라피나 tamchi quiero de llores va chichi llore y no si la bisan ti marwa y no le no chichi quiero llores no chichi quiero yo sin marwa yo sin do tu cada su do jinga ji mo ba chi ba no si me na da chin ha mo go ba de ji da ye ba ina ye ka da ye so so ge le ngen ba ti ma yin ya wa la da yu rin bo de ba wa no ma no si yu rin bo de ba de ji yo do sa ne 예 소속이 단단히 받아 미디기 원불라 내가 이 진화시 좀 무세 나 된다 대상 좋아 대상 뒤쪽 그래서 그러
So we experience sufferings in health in the past for a very long time. And once again, if we were to lead ourselves to experiencing the same sufferings, once again, it is improper to do so, is not all right to do so. So then, if not, then it would be like we are confused by mantras, all sorts of mantras, and then we walk into the fire. So therefore now we have this wisdom, we have this intelligence. So while having this wisdom and this intelligence, it is inappropriate for us to do just like the example that I mentioned just now. So being confused by a mantra, and then we walk into the fire, or we are being we are we are led into the fire. So it's not appropriate to be is inappropriate to do so. So therefore, we should strive to abandon negativities and adopt virtues.
그러니까 견뎌되다. 달라 펜반데 펜바드비 세 매도 세번을 삼았다 간다리 가지고 매년 치바 이거 집 마시러 오러와 내가 그때 내가 도와 뭐받지 얘 세번 뭐받시바 나시러 오러와 내가 간다 다다 이나 펜바드비 세 내가 매도 세번을 이렇게 한번 잡는 거야.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, if I create this situation, if I make myself to experience this in the future, then as though I would confused by the mantra. So then, as if this mind will be reduced to nothing. So as if I do not have any mind, or another way of saying this is as if I have lost my mind.
That's the order. 뭐비죠? 사람이 버들와 뭐가 시기가 시기가 지금 다저 마시데 다비 코는 지시여세. 와 뭐비죠 사람이 버들와
So next outline is it is appropriate to contemplate the cause of confusion. It is appropriate to contemplate the cause of confusion. And under this outline, there is a question. So what made me confused? So in relation to this, under this outline, in relation to this question, there are two lines. The last two lines of verse 27. Even if I do not know what confused me, what is there inside me? So in relation to this last two lines, even if I do not know what confused me, what is there inside me, so it's very meaningful. But these two lines are very meaningful. So it says, even I do not know the cause that confused and deceived me, what is the cause of confusion inside me? So it is definitely there. So there is something that confused me, right? And deceived me. So what is the cause? So then you should know that the cause is one has come under the influence of laziness. Then you should quickly dispel it and contemplate it like that. So meaning that, so we must know what confuses us, right? So the one that confuses us is laziness, like the laziness of the indolent, laziness of indolent, or laziness of low self-esteem. Then and due to which we do not strive for virtue. So we must make sure that we understand what is the confusion. We must make sure that we understand what confuses us, the cause of confusion, and then we must recognize it, and then we must do something about it. So how to do something about it, which is relying on conscientiousness, which is the chapter that we are studying. So we must rely on conscientiousness, and by the discordant so the discordant class of conscientiousness is laziness. So therefore, we must rely on conscientiousness to counteract its discordant class, which is laziness. So think about it. So contemplate like that. So next outline is one is made powerless. So one is made powerless. Under this outline is verse 28. Since enemies such as hatred and craving have neither arms nor legs, and are neither courageous nor clever, how have I been used like a slave to them? So in relation to this verse, they talked about the one is made powerless. So then when we talk about afflictions, so afflictions such as attachment, hatred, pride, jealousy, resentment, and so forth. So all these are enemy. So they are enemies of afflictions. So what they do? So these enemies do not give us any power or do not give us any freedom, but make us as a servant, or make us enslave us, or make us a servant. So in general, when we talk about slave or servant, so we do not have any power, we do not have any self power, or do not have any freedom, right? So similarly, if we fall under the control of afflictions, so those enemies that we mentioned just now. So when we fall under the control of them, then we have to do whatever they instruct us to do. So because when we fall under their control, so they are more powerful, right? So then we have no choice but to do what they instruct us to do, what they tell us to do. So and then If we do what they say, then we will face difficulties.
어디로 가서 간다 가 아니면 어디로 와 아니면 어디
Another one.
근데 간다 수고는 더 봐야다 이거 뭐 받지 봐는 싫어라 이게 이거 이거다 그래서 뭐 받지 봐는 시 그래서 하마가 뭐 받지 봐는 시 아니면 봐래 이게 비야요 말했어 아니면 봐서 되는 시리즈를 걸어와 이거 친구들과 이거 아주 뒤에 뭐 받지 봐더라 이게 뜻줄 니모 봐래 시요 그래서 니모 되는 시요 말했어 아니면 가서 나게 니모 받을 나 하는 거 니모 받이 다 나서 이제 다 ganyan mata kada da ta kudo manje surwa ta da shi ma mata so surwa ta so gare ta dare te ina ta da te la kada ta kira wal male gore da te ba so ngo she ba che gore ta da te karesna ma so ko da yu cha shu yore ma so da ji tin bi mi ja na shi mi ma so te ba la ma ta da so ti cha sa ko te bi pinse ko pa ja 이게 자궁에서 들리지 내야지 여러와 ngo 연계 라바 연계 라바는 전차 군대게 근데 미 관연조 수지 근데지 근데 비자이나다 들리지 내고와 당어서 뭐저 디자서 너무 비자서 들리 요마 있어 거와 그 라바라 전차는 계단 돌아서 막 군대게 동바 바지네 내온게 근데지 여러에서는 들리게 요마는 수지 근데 통하게 요마였어 그와 미 통하게 요마였어 소소지 드라바이나 디비다나시 컴바지네 내외야 리저리베도 니케 그래서 좀 말했으면
Yeah, so we talk about this enemy of afflictions. So in relation to previous verse, and it talks about one is confused by mantras, one is confused by mantra, then one is confused by mantra. So in our case, then we are confused by these afflictions. So we are confused by these afflictions. So this enemy of afflictions is something that we must recognize. It's something that we must recognize. So unlike worldly enemies. So the enemies that we fight, the enemies that we battle against. So is those worldly enemies they have heads, they have legs, they have hands and etc. Then in their hands they hold weapons, and then they have this form is something that we can see by our eyes, and then they arrive by walking and etc. So and these worldly enemies is something that we can run away from, so that we can escape from by running away and etc. So, however, these enemies of afflictions is totally not the same as those worldly enemies. So they do not have haste and etc. So you cannot run away from them by walking away.
어디로와 다 간다 가서리 브라데 딘디시오 마레스 고랑가 근지 디비다 아노시 요 마레스 고 타가와 소소게 페나 디비다라 아모 유레치나 소소가 라파 파스 유레시 비자 도레시 미치야 요즈 디비요 요 마레스 고와 디게스 체인지 요 마레스 요 마레데 이나 디비다라 단다 그리요 비드라세 수야 그랬으나 야 니노야 이신 디비다야 하고 맞아, 되게 되게 저렇게 쉬워다. 제가 그러와 엔지니어 비니노 자 도시다. 쓰리스나 너무 비자데 두고 마다 마다 지대 비자데 두고 했어. 아더니 스 반다 지대 비자데다 단다 너무 비자데니 수수로 빼나 내바나 봐. 예. 따바 새로 뭐 보니 배 동에 니와게 내바도 지 두개데 지대 비자데 레벨에서 말해서 지대 비자데 맞어. 이게 만냐와라마 친도게다. 와, 냐와라마 친도게다. 예, 제가 뭔가를 등에 용기야. 리팅게 지대비다 그래서나. 예, 말이지. 말이지. 근데 이제 대비다서 와다. 근데 뭐 냐와라 친도한테 되게 니가게 해 말이지. 와, 지대비다데 예, 소소 만냐와라 친도하다. 시카바 제가 뭔가를 등에 용기야. 근데 제약이 니가게 해 말이지. 대비다데. 와. 다 지대 비자데 가시게 무제 제바이나. 예. 다 소소기 체인들 그 강학도 와서 마다. 체인들라 소 제바 장지 마도. 예. 예. 소 초바 장지 마도. 답에 예. 이게 나와라마 등에 차치고 노그야 그 싫어 지는마 이 등에 뭐살 맞추려 되게 이봐요 말했어. 이렇게 말해. 소소 네모하다 말이나 게요 말했어.
Yeah, so this enemy of affliction is not something that we can escape from by running away. So when we talk about this, so these enemies of affliction, unlike worldly enemies, so it's not something that you can physically fight them. So like fist and etc., kick and etc., punch and etc. So it's not something that you can do to them. So if you were to compare between these two enemies, the worldly enemies and enemies of afflictions, so which one is worst? So so these enemies of affliction is the worst one. Is the worst one, and comparatively, the worldly enemy is not that bad. So when we talk about harms they can bring us. So the one that can generate the one that can harm us for a lifetime after lifetimes for eons, the one that can cause us to experience suffering for eons in hell and etc. So it's not the worldly enemies. Worldly enemies does not have the ability to do so. So even if so is why do we say so is because these worldly enemies, so even if they do bad things to us, so they cut our hands, legs, and etc., even if they kill us, then it will not, they do not have the ability to cause us to experience suffering for eons or lifetime after lifetimes in hell. So these worldly enemies do not have the ability to do so.
dan 어떤 느낌 비자라 한다 너무 비자 되니 다봐 기도도 단 지디 비자데 그러니 너가 단 지디 비자데 이제 야요 거와 지디 비자데 다 간다지나 가서 자리 지디 비자데 야요 거래 근데 지디 비자데 그러니 도니 니가 나보다 지디 비자데 충화서 지디 비자 땅아 단 시선 같이 된들라베 이게 깨봐 가지 마다메 이디페 소소베 야와로 그 못하는 거 지디 등 뭐지야 그 바디 중요 거牛比较的说说，这要不能是现在过路了，那个过路，那要不能是就那个叫的，我牛比较说的，我也找不人家都在找不牙签嘛，可能找不来了的什么，可能找不的来了，
输给来了。
牛比较说，找不的来了是吧？并没希望，是吧？那就说看他，不给如果就说了吧，说完了都有了过。都是可是全部了，那就是话，这全部，可是全部往给联络的，也往刚才这些工作是联络的，不能往给是联络的，那就是往给他说说呗，也要不能是给我的，这要不能是给我的，那个给啊，刚刚的那个上不就是要嘛，那个也基用，那不是那个干给吧呢？这不懂哎，哎，就嘛这嘛用个，人家起码都，可能这边呢，也专注去多的点吧的，全部给多的点，你看给要嘛，是吧？我这没话说的，那等你要不那些给我的，他妈的，这不可能，但东岸那怎么弄个一结果，东岸那怎么弄个嘛的，可能你个全部，东岸那怎么弄嘛的，每个鸟没了嘛，没别是吧？才切着呢，人家不热闹嘛，这突然，那个别你不全部别。你把这么这样，你是啥回事？是吧？你是这个，我是这边边这个，没是当白人，还是看不起吧？你其他起吧？那别找你妈的给要嘛了吧？是吧？你看我这样，那这边可你没那边没给查账的没，看一东西嘛，有个那些么个吧？去，是吧？我猜东西了嘛？去，有的可真的是这种，那我这里这东西就用吧嘛去。새로 몸보라만 용비하게 그니가 되고요. 그러니까 된디 소다 아 된디 너무 문제가 되나? 뭔가 소소 문에 가네 봐. 다 디엠 쇼스 만도와지 체크도 그 디엠왕은 로바이나 한 드레스 나와지 이 아버지 이기 이와지 싸우는 게 뭔데? 우선 따뜻 무엇이 비토니 너 아때다 그때 장가 드셔. 나제는 뭐 내고라 지나 무엇이 비토니 공조라 그때 비자고 있는 저라 그때 가지고 있는 거 어디서 차도라서 벌써라 그때 가지고 그래서 잠을 수서 그때 넘치지 싫어도 되게하고 서로 다니 아주서라 가대 자고
So if we compare between these two types of enemies, the worldly enemies and afflictions, enemies of afflictions. So if we were to compare their goodness, so comparatively, the worldly enemies is slightly better. And if we were to compare their abilities, then the worldly enemies weak, is weak. So they do not have a strong ability. They do not have great ability. So so when we talk about these enemies of affliction, they enslave us, right? They make us slave or a servant. So these enemies of afflictions, so they are friend with laziness, they are friend with ignorance. So in other way of saying this, or in conventional way of saying this is all these enemies of afflictions, they are good friends. So all these friends, a group of good friends, so they make us a servant or a slave. So and they do not uh, and they do not ask us to do jobs what is worthy to do. So they ask us to they do not ask us to they do not instruct us to do good things. They do not instruct us to do what is worthwhile to do. Instead, they instruct us to do instruct us to do actions that will bring us uninterrupted suffering results. So and so at the end, then we experience all sorts of sufferings, such as in hell. Not just experiencing great suffering, we experience it for many eons, for lifetimes after lifetimes. And those all sorts of suffering, such as uh, uh, experiencing a fire, being burned in hell. So this hell of fire is not an ordinary fire that we are talking about. And this hellfire is something that can burn even the mouse marrow to the ground, to dust. So it's just like ordinary fire that can burn houses to grounds. But this hellfire, they can burn even the mouse marrow to dust. So this hellfire is powerful like this. So what is the meaning of this is, so we have to make sure that we do not go under that we do not fall under their control. And yeah, so if we do not fall under their control, and if we were to fall under their control, then so there is no happiness at all. So one will not experience happiness at all. So and in the future, so in following chapters and verses, and it talks about how to counteract those afflictions. Like so in general, so we have to counteract them. We have to counteract them based on so by using this wisdom of intelligence. That's all. That's all. So yeah, sorry, we stop here today. So today we stopped here. So we conclude with dedication. We dedicate these roots of virtue to the flourishing of the Dharma and the excellent happiness of all sentient beings. We also dedicate these roots of virtue all upholders of Buddha's teaching, mainly His Holiness the Dalai Lama, to live eons long, to have excellent health, and may all their enlightened activities and holy wishes be accomplished instantaneously and spread in all directions. We also dedicate these roots of virtue to our beloved teacher, Geshe Lama Gopal Rinpoche. May the unmistaken reincarnations of Rinpoche be swiftly returned and continue to turn the wheel of Dharma for the sake of teaching the sentient beings, so that we will have the opportunity to receive precious profound teachings from Rinpoche again. We also dedicate these roots of virtue for world peace, and may excellent happiness prevail in the world. may wars, conflicts, disaster, natural disasters such as earthquake and so forth, and also diseases and pandemic be pacified immediately. Bhagavadi Dindaruva Kundagan Bendang Kiva Jitsun Losan Rama Yedebe Nimbo Rindu Seji Shu Yangju Senjo Rinpo Che Ma Che Pana Chi Ju Chi Che Ba Nyama Me Maya Kondo Pewa Shu Pangyu Chidang Chenpa Dang Kundo Sambo De Hante Shinde De Rak De Jinso Dalo Je Kewa Dida Dang Je Rang Do Mo Tong Ki Kawa Po Che Ma Che Pana Chi Ju Chi Che Ba Nyama Me Maya Konde Kondo Pewa Shu Rini Tawa Rinpo Che Ma Che Pana Chi Che Ba Nyama Me Maya Konde Kondo Pewa Shu Rini Che Sundo Jube Lang Chi Che Sase Kan Chen Ten Yu Gun Sana Pe Mo Ten Sing Bia Zo La Sowa De So Chen De Le Do Shu Ten Kan De Pen De Ma Lu Ba Kan Le Jun Re Sa Pe Shin No Ka De So Me Ten Sing Bia Zo La Sowa De So Tu She Le Do Shu Da Pe Ten Ba Ke Se De Na Zo Lo San Jia Wa Ye Se Ju Ba Je Ran Jia Shin Ge Jia Yu Ma De Be Ten Jia Pen Ba Tu Be Ge Le So Yong So So Be Tu De Rin So Chi She Da Tu Be Se Se Pe Wa La Na Ya Mu Shu Se Be Ko Jia Ren Chi Me Chi Chi La Ma So Wa De Pe De Ma Lu Jun Ge Ko Chi Mo Ke Da Ma Ju Do Wa Ye Pen La Chi Do Zhe Ba Se Be Mo Do Be Shi Kan Shi De Ye Ba Wen Da Ju Zun Ge Zhu Xin La Dang Ka Sen Da Ke Tu Ge La Bo Je Lu Me Den Be Yang Du Sa Be Zo Ke Sa Tu Che Be Do Yu Xie Shu Ka Re Ra Ye Ko Yu Xin Gang De Pen Da De Wa Ma Lu Jun Wei De Che Se Mo De Zin Ge Zhu Yi Sha Be Si De Ba Thank you.